Noz,
Mandy.
it's good to see you again.
You too. I'm so happy to be here with you.
Likewise.
Mandy, I'm dying to know. I feel like we hang out all the time, but like, what sparked your love of design? Like, why are you an interior designer?
There's a moment, you know how you like remember things from your past?
Yes.
And you don't really know anything around all of that. You just know that one moment. It was a craftsman home. You'd walk up the few steps, and I walked in, and like prior to this moment, I had never really been in a designed home, but this was like a staged home for an open house. And I walked in, and you know, there's like the bachelor fireplace, and there's like the cute furniture, and all the cushions were red. And I remember in that moment, I had this feeling that I still get when I'm in a really well-designed place, which is like shock and awe, but also like relief. It's that moment was like
Chasing
a very
that
pivotal
feeling.
moment of this is why I like design.
Cool.
Wait, what about you?
The first house that I remember living in had what I recall in my mind as bright electric green tufted nylon carpeting. And that was one of my first memories where it was like, I love whatever this feeling is. Like, I have a huge feeling about this thing, and I think I've always been chasing it, but it was always in my blood, man. Like, that the things that I was creating were livable and practical from a very young age.
So my first project was a full got reno of a 2-story condo building, and I had no idea what I was getting into, but I did it. And when I like turned over the keys to this client, he was so happy and relieved. And in that moment, I was like, I'm a designer.
Wow.
I did this. I have it in my head that if I say that I'm a thing, then I'm that thing. And I've always been that way. And it's not to say that I feel like I should be good at that thing, but I have no problem saying I am this. Because I know that if I work as hard as I know I can, I will execute.
Yeah.
But
That's amazing.
anything beyond that, I can't guarantee. Okay, what about you?
I was on this project, and the architects, bless them, they were confronted with being very established architects in San Francisco, and then being told, hey, this like nobody is going to be joining the project team. Her name is Noz, and I promise you she won't ruin your project. And I was like, hi, I've never done this before. So happy to be here. And there was a moment a couple of years into working on this project, which was a gut renovation of like a 5,000 square foot property. It was a huge opportunity for me to be that early in my career. And they basically, at some point, the architect came to me and was like, hey, I'm workshopping a couple of different ideas for how to terminate this stair detail into the wall. Can you take a look with me? I want to know what you think. And that was when I was like, oh my God, am I doing a good enough job that the architect on this project wants my opinion? I'm gonna change my business card.
What role does lighting play in design for you?
For me, lighting is so much the star of a room. I love lighting. There is, to me, a deep adoration of light in the way that it behaves as a sculpture. And I mean, it's funny because in the collectible art universe, they call really fancy like art lights illuminated sculpture. And that's actually so often what I feel about like a table lamp or a floor lamp or a sconce. Like, they're all illuminated sculpture if they're done right. And that's kind of how I feel about them. Like, you're not really supposed to touch and interact with them once they're up. I mean, if anything.
Really?
Well, I mean, do you fondle your chandelier, Mandy?
Yes.
Maybe you do. Okay, well, I'm doing life wrong and I need to change my life.
You should touch
I'm
things.
changing my life. As a consequence of this video, I'm going to touch my lights. If you don't touch your lights and you treat them as just visual moments in the room, I just really love how you can have any style of room and then install a light fixture or a set of light fixtures and lamps that are totally different in style from the rest of the room, and it still works. Mm-hmm. I love the power of lighting to just completely transform or enhance a mood in a room that way.
For half of the day, without lights, you can't see anything.
That is an incredibly accurate answer.
So it's important for that reason. It illuminates the room. But also, I think kind of to what you're saying, but maybe twisted in a different way. To me, lighting is like, it could be jewelry. So it's the jewelry of the room, or it could take down or elevate a room. So like if a client forces me to go more casual than I want in the room,
Fired, jail, prison. No?
I just get fancier lights.
I love that.
And
That's a better answer.
I don't, yeah, it's their house.
Yeah.
So I just get fancier lights, and then it like elevates the room, or like vice versa. If they like want all white furniture and, you know, all marble, and it like feels a little too cold, then like my lights can kind of like soften it and like make it funky or whatever
Yeah.
I want it to do. It's just that thing.
So often the lighting is the thing that really does it. It sets the tone.
Yes.
Which is important. Agreed.
When you start a new project, what gets you excited?
The best part about starting a new project is basically all of it. There's this kind of like, it's almost like when you're like dating and falling in love with somebody, but it's your client and then you have multiple of them, so you can do it all the time. But I love getting to know our clients and like the entire process of learning who they are and uncovering what really gets them excited and what motivates them and brings them to life.
Understanding like the psyche of them is like always a very cool process. And my favorite is when the client says like, do your thing.
Yes.
That's the best.
Oh my God. And it's like, oh, so not only do you trust me, but you get it.
Yes.
You get that the creative process will necessarily include you anyway. So by letting go and letting us do,
it's
you're
like
in it.
respecting what we do
100%.
and like trusting it. So
Totally. So often we get celebrated for how a picture of our design looks.
Yeah.
But what really matters is how the space feels, right? For you, what does it feel like when you've walked into a really, really well-designed space?
there's like a moment of it takes your breath away, and that's like the admiration of it. But also there's like the you breathe. So I don't know how you lose your breath, but you also breathe. But it's both of those.
That's beautiful.
It wasn't meant to be, but thank you.
I love it. That was poetry. That was a haiku, Mandy.
God. And what about you?
I mean, like, I will have literally skin tingling. My heart starts racing. Like, things feel huge to me. Just looking at a picture of a designed space that I'm moved by on my phone or in a book or in a magazine. Like, that's how big the feeling is. So when I walk into a space, like, you will see this happening on camera. When I walk into a space that makes me feel that way, I start crying.
I was just gonna ask you that. Like, do you start crying?
My feelings are so big. Cut this. But like literally, this is how I feel all the time.
I don't cry, but I get it.
It saves your makeup to not cry.
It's waterproof.
It's iconic. She's from LA and I'm from jerky San Francisco, where we get all messy in the fog.
Okay, Noz. How do you know when a space is finished?
I want the spaces that I create to actually be lived in, which means that they're always evolving, they're always changing. It means that if I come over to my client's place a month after they've moved in, perhaps the couch has been moved a little bit.
I think a space is done. This is very revealing. When the homeowner feels like they're ready to have a party.
Whoa, I love that.
Like they feel comfortable enough that like, you know, the home reflects them. It is pretty, and like they can invite people in to like show off the space.
That's so cool. I love that. I'm gonna take that with me. I love a party too, at somebody else's house. How have you found that your design process has evolved or continues to evolve?
I think it evolves after every single project. The very first project I did, in my head, all of the wood tones had to be the same.
Yeah.
And now my projects now are very much not that at all. An analogy I give to a lot of my clients who say like, shouldn't it all be the exact same wood everywhere? This is gonna sound really cheesy right now, but I'm gonna say it anyway. When you go into a forest, there's a whole bunch of trees out there and they're not all the same and they look really good together.
Yeah.
So I feel the same way about.
I don't think that's cheesy.
Tell me about your collection and why you love it.
My collection with Corbett Lighting is the first time I've ever had an opportunity to design light fixtures, and I'm absolutely in love. I was obsessed with this whole idea that we always called lighting the jewelry of a room, but I hadn't, and it is, but I hadn't ever necessarily like seen an entire collection of lights that literally took inspiration from the silhouettes and the forms of fine jewelry. And as you might have
I know
noticed,
who better.
If you might have noticed, I love jewelry, and I love like how a single individual piece of jewelry, when then brought into the context of other jewelry, transforms and changes. And so the collection that I wanted to put forth kind of celebrates that. The ways that jewelry is manufactured and made by hand, from the sort of lost wax casting process to the actual literal finishes of like gold and how you polish or sandblast, etc. The fact that we were able to bring so much of that into the collection, and even in fact use natural stone from onyx to alabaster to Imperador marble, like that makes me so excited that we like literally are using actual stone.
It's so cool.
Thank you. I was blown away, and I'm so grateful to Corbett that I got to do that in our collection. Like, it's rad. I wanted to create light fixtures that when put into the world would feel for other people like, oh my God, finally, this thing that's been in my head, someone else finally made it real, and now I get to put it in my projects. That is like the biggest honor and compliment, when someone is like, the thing that you put in your Corbett Lighting collection, that's what I've been waiting to have exist. And now I get to use it. It's such a dream come true.
My crazy process in how I was going to come up with my line was I put this little box together. It involved so many marbles. Like there were marbles and fabric samples and like little bits and bobs, and it was just this little treasure box. And I think I actually said, like, send it back to me when you're done, because I love this box. And then just like the production process of it all, like I didn't know what it took to take my little treasure box and turn it into a lighting collection. So like that was, and they're like very open about that whole process, you know, like they tell you like, okay, now there's this, and now you're gonna like have to wait.
I felt very shepherded along.
Yeah.
Did you feel shepherded?
Yes.
Yeah.
Very supported.
Totally.
Very like, yeah, totally. When I was coming up with this collection, I really kind of going back to like wanting nature to be a part of everything. And like, that's very much how I design. I think that's how a lot of people design. But I wanted like the materiality to kind of, you know, have that essence. So there's a lot of texture. There's fringe. There's grass cloth. It's just everything. I like to touch my lights, Noz. So I want to be able to touch them and feel a thing. So
I love that. That actually makes so much sense. Like I could see myself like hanging the Naya chandelier particularly low to my short person head and just like flapping a tassel on my way past it. I love the idea that your collection moves.
Yes.
Like there's a lot of ability for it to kind of like sway in the breeze.
Yes.
I love that.
Because the doors are always open. Like it's meant to be a very approachable, easy to use collection. It's not meant to be like very, very specific for one type of space by any means. So.
I totally hear that. And I feel that when I look at the collection.
Oh, good.
And now I hope that I also feel that when I touch the collection with my human hands.
Wait for you to touch the collection.
I feel like the whole way through from day 0 to the launch day has been a really incredible opportunity to collaborate with a partner who not only respects what I bring to the table, but also brings to the table themselves everything that is required to create a successful lighting collection. And I love that. What is the benefit of sourcing from a company that has 4 distinct brands?
To have a place where you can go that has 4 very distinct brands and very distinct price points along with that just kind of makes sourcing for, you know, the heavy hitting rooms where you need like those statement pieces and like budget is a little more flexible versus like the guest bedroom wall sconces where you need to be a little more budget conscious, and to be able to go to one vendor for that is amazing.
It's variety for the client as well without them having to worry about the logistics that we're about to be faced with.
Exactly. So my audience, they're really meant to be like very approachable light fixtures. They're meant for everybody. You can live in the Midwest where I'm from. You can put them in your home, you know, on the coast, whichever coast it is. Like they're really meant to be for everyone.
Certainly, I'm always blown away when someone who does love jewelry kind of gets what I'm doing with each particular piece. That always means a lot because I'm like, I see you. I see you. Then on top of that, I think for me, the hope is that the collection speaks to people who love eclecticism, who kind of can't see themselves in any particular category of architectural and interior style. They're not modern, they're not traditional, but they're not neither, and they're probably both. That to me is what I love about the collection, and what I hope resonates with people is someone who's like, well, in this room, perhaps I'm like quite Victorian, but I want there to be a modern element, and this light fixture evokes both, and that's how come it fits in the design that I have in mind for this room.
I can very much see myself putting these into my projects in a way that's like, we're missing an artistic element, you know, but it's not pushing art so far that it doesn't fit in. So,
wow, thank you. Well, it would be an honor to use your lights, and it would be beyond to see my lights in one of your projects. So maybe we start there.
It'll happen. Just wait for it.
Oh.
I didn't know what we were doing.
I don't know either.
Okay, that was great.
That was the lighting pact.